Tape Deck Media.
Good morning, Ramblers. Welcome back to another episode of Ruddle Me This. I am, as always, your host, Big Socrates himself, Taylor Ruddle. Happy Monday to you. I hope you've had a good weekend and you've got some exciting stuff coming up this week. I am currently battling with a severe case of morning voice. I've been trying to do some vocal warm-ups and everything to get ready for this, but bear with me. I'm not a morning person. I really need to stop recording these first thing in the morning. I've got a cracker of a guest for you today. It is comedian and musician Seán Tinker, based down in Wanaka and Queenstown. I've known Seán for several years now. I'm trying to think of the first time that we met each other. I assume it was because he was up in Christchurch doing shows, but now that I think about it, I actually don't remember what the first time we met was. But anyway, I have a lot of fond memories of working with Seán. Seán and another comic called Megan McGill used to, I think they still do, but it's not as active these days. They run a comedy group called Remarkably Funny, which is based down in the Remarkables, Wanaka, Queenstown, that sort of area. I went down for a show, 2 or 3 years ago now. I don't like to think about when it was. I think it was sort of in the middle of the pandemic. It was right just around when the pandemic was sort of coming out of it, I think. And actually, now that I think about it, that trip forever skewed my impression of Queenstown. Because when I went down, it was like deserted because we're just coming out of the pandemic, so tourism was not really happening. And I remember thinking like, man, Queenstown's awesome. There's not a lot of people around. It's nice and quiet. It's got this kind of chill mountain vibe. And you know how when you go to a place for the first time, that exists as the default state in your mind? So now whenever I go back to Queenstown and it is busy, because that's what it's normally like, I'm always like, man, Queenstown's changed. The trip was great though. We had like a sold out show. I was advertised as the headliner, which is insane, and we still managed to sell it out. And it was, we put it on a place called Canyon Brewing, which was the weirdest drive ever, because it was me. I think I drove down in my own car, or maybe it was I think it was my little Toyota Starlet. And Canyon Brewing is kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's just in this valley and amongst all these mountains outside of Queenstown. And it was the sketchiest thing ever, driving there by myself and then just ending up in like a completely unlit parking lot and having to sort of you had to walk down a little hill thing and across, and I could sort of vaguely see lights off in the distance. And once you get to the actual venue, it was gorgeous. It was so cozy, so nice. But if you've never been there before, man, that parking lot is you feel like you're in the start of a horror movie or something. There's just no one out there. It was, yeah. But yeah, so I have a lot of respect and gratitude for Seán and Megan for bringing me down for that trip. I would have been cash flow positive, which is incredibly rare for a road comedy gig where you're driving several hours. If I hadn't got a speeding ticket, the only speeding ticket I've ever gotten in the world, I think I was gonna be like $80 up by the end of the comedy trip, and the speeding ticket was $90 or something, so that pushed me into the red. So yeah, you can't win them all, folks. But yeah, I wanted to bring Seán on the show today because he, like myself, recently took the jump into being a full-time entertainer or a full-time performer. He's been going for maybe slightly longer than I have. I'm not quite sure what the timelines are, but I've had so many questions for him about how he made the jump, what it's like, where he kind of sources his gigs from, and everything like that. So this was a great opportunity for me just to pick his brain a little bit and find out how he did it, and then kind of just ask some questions about the life of basically a full-time musician. So that is enough of that palaver. I don't really have any plugs to get in this week, but please come out to the Tuesday night quiz at Holy Moly. Trying to get that one up and running. And then, of course, Wednesday night at Moi Moi, Thursday night at the Laugh Cellar Comedy Club. And that's it for this week. That is all I've got going on. So a very chill week for me. To be honest, I'm very grateful to have that because it's been a very busy, sort of month just past. So I'm looking forward to hopefully finishing the Lazarus Project. That's the show. I'm going to try and finish Hacks season 3, and I'm sure there's another TV show that I'm partway through that I probably need to watch Fallout. Anyway, I am rambling too much. Let's get on with the interview. Great interview. I hope you enjoy it. Please welcome to the show, Seán Tinker. Hello, Seán. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Taylor.
How are you doing on this, Saturday morning we're recording this?
Not too bad. Not too refreshed, actually. Surprisingly not hungover. I'm in a bit of a wellness kick at the moment, so it's nice. Bit of clarity.
Nice. You said it's fairly rare for you to have a Saturday morning that you're off, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, never working, but usually just kind of mentally recovering from the night before. Yeah.
So I guess that leads quite nicely into what I wanted to talk to you about today. You recently, within sort of the last 2 years, maybe even 1 year, like myself, took the plunge into sort of having a punt as a full-time entertainer. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it would be about October. October last, that I really kind of tried to put my balls into it. Yeah.
Do you remember what your because I was sort of pushed before I could jump, or jump before I was pushed, because I had an RSI injury that was making my day job very uncomfortable. What was your kind of the moment where you thought all right, I've just got to do this, or was there even one?
A couple of things really. I so prior to doing this, I was working as a joiner. Which was, grand job, but it was very early mornings and I'm very lazy.
I'm with you there.
And it got to a stage where I was doing a lot of gigs, which is obviously more like a weekend based thing. So I ended up taking that job down to just 3 days a week. So then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But then even after a weekend of gigs, sometimes getting home at 3 a.m., then having on Monday morning to get up at 6 a.m. or, even earlier, which people who are listening who have real jobs will be laughing at how I'm complaining about that.
But those people are in bed at 8 o'clock, so it's not.
Yeah,
my parents always used to tease my brother and I for I've never been a morning person. But then in the same respect, they're in bed at 7, so it's kind of that's when it flips, and we're the ones that are alert and they're all sleepy.
Well, I have that. It's like an avoidance thing, they say, where if you have very little control over your life, your day-to-day life, that you try and stay up as late as you can, so you at least have some semblance of control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
I'd stay up till 1 a.m., which is not ideal when you got to get up at 6 a.m. It's 5 hours of sleep to do a full day of laboring, which is does burn you out.
Yeah, no, 100%. I feel like I definitely that was the reason I was staying up, is because it's just quiet when everyone's asleep, and you're not sort of, nobody really needs you for anything. You're sort of left to your own devices. So
Exactly.
Very interesting. Is that have you always been like that, or has it been a gradual shift to being more of a night person?
I think always, yeah. When I was younger, the greatest gift my parents could ever give me was a slightly later bedtime.
What was your bedtime as a child?
Whenever I fucking wanted. No. I don't know, 10:30 or something like that. That felt like about average.
Yeah.
But then when you're watching a movie and you look at the clock and it's 10:35 and your parents haven't cottoned on yet. Treat them like a T-Rex. You just gotta stay still so they don't pick up your movement, and then you can stay until 11.
That's quite funny. That is a very much universal experience. It's almost like free. It's like free time, isn't it?
Exactly. It's the greatest gift.
I remember fighting tooth and nail to it, because did you ever used to watch Cartoon Network? I guess, did you grow up in New Zealand?
No. I grew up on the other side of the world. So
we had
on Cartoon Network, yeah.
Yeah. Because it was I think based on Australian times. New Zealand and Australia would go into daylight savings at different times of the year, so everything we wanted to watch was suddenly an hour later, and that used to cause a lot of fights in my childhood, because we'd want to stay up and watch the stuff that we wanted to watch. But our parents, I think they were going into it with a mindset of if we give them an inch, they'll take a mile, so they never budged on that. But yeah,
mine was wrestling. wrestling was mine. We
I,
actually, my treat as a kid was on a Friday night. My mom would go out with the girls, so it's just me and my dad. And I used to watch WWF Raw.
right.
It was on a Friday night at like 9 p.m. It lasted for like 2 hours. So that was, I mean, I get to go to bed at 11 because no school the next day. And
Yeah.
my dad, genius move on his part, would convince me that it was like a treat night. And so he was going to do me like spoil me with dinner. Right. I was looking forward to this every Friday. And genius man, his idea of like a surprise treat dinner was a pot noodle. Which I thought was gourmet.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, my dad is really pulling out all the stops to make him 2-minute instant noodles.
That's
Genius.
That's such a dad thing to cook as well, isn't it? Pot noodle, anything that doesn't really require any like silverware to be used.
That or oven pizza.
Yeah, yeah. What
He
was
was feeling generous. He'd slice up some sausage and put it on, so it was like he was cooking.
Yeah. What was your favorite flavor of pot noodle when you were a kid?
We all have dreams of being a Bombay bad boy kind of person, but really I was a chicken and mushroom through and through.
We never had those. It's so funny. If you are you aware of the New Zealand flavors of those kind of instant noodles?
I mean, I know Migo Ren's like the more popular one over here,
Yeah,
but
that's
in
not.
the
Yeah, no, those weren't even here until like the last sort of 10 years. We had this brand called Maggi, and they only had like the flavors you could get were literally chicken or beef and like nothing else. So that that explains the New Zealand palate to you.
that's all you need. I'm sick of these companies thinking they're better than they are.
Trying to put like
Smoky bacon.
truffle.
Yeah, get wrecked.
Wonderful. So when you initially made your switch to having a go full time, you went from 3 days a week to just like you handed in your notice and went for it.
So yeah, what happened basically is because it was a tradie kind of job, we used to get basically all of December off.
Yeah.
Um,
You just never came back.
I mean, when you put it like that, it makes me sound.
They're still waiting for you to this day. Like, oh, geez, I haven't seen that Sean kid for a while.
Sent an email in,
Yeah,
and I was like, technically gave them more than 2 weeks notice because it was just this mandatory month-long holiday we had, and I was like, after like a week, I was like, why am I doing this? I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
Go back to it. So I sent them an email and I was like, very nice, I appreciate all the opportunities you've given me and yada yada yada, but I'm going to pursue other avenues. And this is also during December where my main gig is doing music. Just to, I don't know if we said that already to clarify.
I'll probably have said it in the introduction. Yeah.
Sweet. The introduction that you record later on. It's like time traveling.
Future Taylor's done it.
Yeah. Shout out Future Taylor.
Hell yeah.
So I was doing a lot of gigs, and December is like one of the busiest times of year for a musician. Playing in bars and stuff. So I had a very good December, and I was like, well, why would I ever go back?
Yeah. You may have actually just cottoned on to something. You know how they always say that we should have a summer break from our jobs, like you used to get for school. You'd have like the Christmas holidays or whatever off. Yeah. I reckon if they did that, people would be like you, and they would have a realization that they don't want to go back to their jobs. And so, for the sake of keeping people, they can't let that happen, because otherwise the workforce would just be like, yeah, like exactly what you had 2 weeks into the holiday, going, oh, you know what, I'm actually not that into this.
I mean, I for all the controversy that it had, I reckon we should do a lockdown every 2 years. So weekend.
I'm with you.
I'd love it. I'd love it.
What was your kind of, because you locked down in Wanaka?
Correct.
Which, I mean, what a beautiful place to lock down in, right?
Well, it doesn't really matter if you're inside, does it?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you've got a nice view to look out your window at.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, I could just, yeah.
But no, I support you. I reckon we should, lock down every sort of, how often did you reckon? Every year?
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like we should industry should take it in turns. All the tradies should have a lockdown, and then all the hospital workers should have a lockdown, and then, because if we did it all at once, everything would grind to a halt.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you'd have to stagger it.
poor fuckers in New World, which
We could do it like the NFL has like an off season. We could do that where we sort of stagger an off season for different industries, and yeah, hopefully it all keeps functioning, but you
yeah,
never know.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you made the jump. In the beginning, did you notice any? Because mine, I noticed straight away is that I slept way better because I wasn't stressed all the time. Were there any immediate changes that you noticed when you made the jump?
Um, I really started drinking heavily.
Really?
I mean, in the very first lockdown, yeah.
Oh no, no, I
Um,
mean I mean when you quit your job to work as a
oh,
full-time entertainer.
um, what did I notice different? Definitely felt a lot less stressed. I had those kind of 3 days to kind of recover. I mean, I am doing part-time work at the moment as well. I'm still doing a Monday to Wednesday. But it's much more casual. It's much more um lower stress and something I actually enjoy doing as well, which
Yeah.
is the main thing. I kind of got to a stage as well. A couple of things happened last year where I was like, I don't want to do a job that I hate.
Hmm.
And even if it does earn you decent money, there's something to be said about, maybe not earning the most money, but doing something you enjoy doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I watched this I think it's a hypnotist show initially, but it was like a big theater thing, and it was oh God, I'm totally blanking on the name. It was Darren Brown, I think his name was, and he does a
Yeah, yeah.
show, yeah.
English hypnotist.
Yeah, he does a show called
Scam artist.
Showman. What's that?
English scam artist.
Yeah, exactly. Not very popular in this podcast at the moment. But he does a show called Showman, where at the start he talks about they interviewed like hundreds of people on their deathbed and said what were their biggest regrets, and it was all to basically to the tune of like I wish I had taken the leap, and I wish I'd lived the life that I wanted to live instead of the life that other people wanted for me was a big one.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's really stuck in my mind since since watching that. I think it was something I always felt, but seeing it on the screen and like written down, I was like, yeah, that's it right there. So I think
Yeah.
yeah, because it's like my thought if it doesn't work out, I thought like, well, when I left my last job, it's like I can either get another job that I'm probably not going to enjoy, or I can try this. And then if it doesn't work, I'm going to have to get a job anyways. So I might as well like have a go.
Yeah.
And so far, so good. So yeah,
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, I think it's a fear really everyone has that you don't want to leave with any regrets, and
Hmm.
you do only get one shot. This is turning very very fucking happy
Soulful.
thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, that's why people listen, isn't it? I've done a survey for my listeners, and a lot of them said they want to hear more about what it's like trying to make it as an artist. So we're,
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned, tick. Um,
yeah,
we're giving the people what they want.
yeah,
Um, and what was my next question? So I was going to say, when you left, I think you might have been in a similar-ish position to me where you kind of had enough work on or enough consistent work where you thought like, if I get rid of the day job, you've got something, you've got these consistent, because you seem to sort of play a lot of the same places each week. And was
yes.
that like a relationship you've built up over several years with the management of the place of the venues?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's always difficult getting the foot in the door. You've always got to do that first gig, that initial gig to,
Yep.
show what you can do. And even then, you got to have a good night, and
Yeah.
sometimes you can't control that. Sometimes, the venue just might be quiet that night. But if you show up, if you're easy to work with, if you don't cause any problems, just get in there, do your job, get out. People like that. And yeah, I built up a bit of a regular kind of portfolio of places to play at. And then once you got that, it's easier to get into other places as well because you just advertise yourself and say, hey, if you guys are looking for a musician, I play at, venue X, Y, and Z. Would love to have the opportunity to play with you guys.
Mm.
So I did have that regular kind of catalog of places.
This is a question I'm kind of curious to ask you about as well, actually, because you said your kind of the main days you work are like what, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Um, Have you started running into the problem now? This is one that I've only recently realized is a problem, and it's mainly because with stand up, most places only want to take a punt on stand up on their quieter nights. Like they don't need the help getting people in on like a Friday or Saturday.
Hmm.
So the issue I've run into now is I've got heaps of places that I could do something with, but they all want to do the same day. So it's
Yeah.
like I have this bottleneck of like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the 3 days that I'm constantly juggling stuff around. Do you have
Yeah.
the same kind of thing where you've got a place who are keen, but you just it's on a time you're already doing something else?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say with music, it's almost the opposite, where they want a musician on the nights where they know they're going to be busy,
Yeah.
which is the generally the Friday, Saturday. But I also make it up to Queenstown, which is a bit more of a 7 nights a week kind of place. But
Mm.
yeah, during December, I think my record was 4 gigs in one day.
What did that day look like?
Shit. That was a fun day. It was the Wanaka Beer Festival,
Uh-huh.
and so I was asked to play an acoustic set at lunchtime. It's a 2 hour acoustic set, I believe it was. I think it was like 11:30 till 1:30.
Yep.
And I was also asked to host a stand-up comedy tent where we did 2 shows. So I did 2 sets in 2 shows with like 2 15-minute sets.
Hmm.
Finished that up, and then I had to drive into town to do another music gig.
Yeah.
Tends to be one of their busiest nights because they get the influx of about 10,000 people at this beer festival.
Shit. Wow.
They're already loaded up on booze, and they just walk into the venue. So that was a busy day, and
Yeah.
a weird day as well, because I'd never done daytime stand-up comedy
Yeah.
in a tent.
The matinee, I believe they call it, don't they? They sort of make it sound
Yeah.
fancy, right? Yeah. How
Just
did you
walking
get?
out.
Wait,
It was,
people
it
would
was
walk.
Yeah, people could just walk in and out. So it wasn't like a
Mm,
ticket thing. So, they could come in for, we had about 5 comedians on, and Christ, there's nothing more disheartening than you've done your set and then people just leave.
yeah. As in, like you finish up what you're doing, and then
Yeah.
do they clap for you?
Ah, usually.
Mm. Oh,
It's
then
weird. I mean, they're there for a beer festival, right? So they're not there for an hour-long comedy show, which I
yeah,
can appreciate.
yeah,
But at the
yeah,
same time, you still can't help but take it personally when you've done your set and then people just go, right, well, we're not going to stick around for the rest of the show.
yeah, yeah. We've got what we needed out of that little kind of. We had a couple of chuckles, and then yeah,
Yeah.
that's something I've recently been coming to terms with more is that like it's not about me. Um
Exactly.
like when I I'm a bit of a control freak, and so I get a bit stroppy when people aren't like because I host a lot of quiz nights. That's you're probably familiar with that as a freelance entertainer. Um and I get stroppy when people aren't bringing the sheets up like promptly enough. Like we'll tell them, all
Oh,
right,
yeah.
so whatever, and then when I have to give the final call of like, hey, we're about to go through the answers, so if you haven't, and then you see people scrambling and running up, but then I always have to remind myself that like most people are not in it because they are like they want to like do properly do the quiz night. They just, it's just something to do, and they're more interested in having a chat with their friends and having a drink and some dinner or whatever. So it's been a big thing for me to just like remind myself of that, take a breath, and just be like, it's okay. It doesn't affect me. Like, just let them enjoy their night.
If they're there doing a quiz night and they're not there to win, then they don't deserve to be there, in my opinion. I
Well,
am.
it's
I'm an
okay if you
ardent.
say that, but I'm not allowed to.
Ah, you should. I'm a very keen pub quizzer.
Oh, are you really?
Well, we've got a team. So in Wanaka they do like a winter season pub quiz.
Uh-huh.
So we've got a team. Every Tuesday night we go in there. And last year, so you get like, I think it's like $50 for first place, like fifty
Wow.
dollar tab,
Yeah, 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 totally.
$30 second place. And last year we kind of banked all our tabs, and we got up to about $580
Oh my goodness.
because we were that damn good. And
That was
now
off the back of your quizzing.
we've got this year's already. We've got 3 first places and 1 second place.
Wow. To the
Yeah.
audio only listeners, he just held up what looked like a bag of American money to me, but it was.
I mean, they're little vouchers.
Yeah,
They're worth. So yeah, it's essentially American money.
hell yeah.
Worthless.
Rapidly depreciating. Um, Sorry to interrupt the show, but I gotta be a shill for a second. I am historically bad at self-promotion, but it's one of those things I need to get better at, so here goes. If you like what I do and want to support me going forward, here's how. The main thing you can do if you want to help this podcast grow is to tell people about it, share my posts and reels on social media, and of course, leave a cheeky review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher. In terms of social media, here's where to follow me. My tag on everything is @TaylorRuddleComedy. Follow me on Facebook or Insta to see all upcoming gigs and live dates. Follow me on YouTube, TikTok, or Insta to see reels of the podcast as well as skits and stand-up clips. I've also got 2 free comedy specials up on my YouTube page as well, with plans to release another 2 full-length ones by the end of the year, so give me a subscribe so you don't miss out. Once a month I host a podcast called Hosstown with my friend and comedic colleague Matt Lilly. It's a light-hearted take on modern masculinity as the two of us try to strike a balance between being scholars and cavemen with plenty of belly laughs along the way. Hosstown is eventually going to have its own feed on the Tape Deck Media Network, but for now, the easiest thing to do is to search Hosstown Podcast into YouTube, where you can watch the full videos of the full episodes. We release them all free up on there. You can of course catch me live all over Christchurch with quizzes, musical bingo, and of course comedy nights. Go and follow my Facebook page to keep up to date with those. I've also got a survey running at the moment so that I can find out what people do and don't like about the podcast. Visit taylorruddle.com/podcast to have your say. It really helps me out. I'll chuck a link in the show notes to that. Thank you for indulging me. That's all the shilling out of the way. Let's get back to the show. So that sort of leads quite nicely into my next kind of question is when you're structuring your set list for one of these acoustic music gigs, what kind of thought process do you go through when you're thinking of what songs to play for people?
Depends on the venue, depends on the time as well. If it's like an afternoon gig, like a Sunday afternooner, I'm not going to be playing the bangers. I'm going to be playing all the kind of easy listening, the Bob Dylan,
the
Springsteen kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If it's a later gig, what I've started doing with pretty good success, actually, I've got those blackboards you get in a cafe where they stick the white letters onto them.
Yes.
So I've got one now, which I hang up when I'm playing, and it says, Seán Tinker, tips and requests welcome.
Very cunning.
And then it's got like my Instagram and my contact number for bookings.
Very clever.
And doing that the board cost me $30, and the first night I had it out, I got about $180 in tips.
Holy cow.
And part of that is because some people before that, people would come up to me and they very timidly be like, "Oh, do you do requests?" Because a lot of musicians won't do it. They kind of want to stick to the stuff they know, which is, absolutely fine.
Yeah.
That's the perfectly valid way to do it. I just like having an idea of what people want to listen to. And it's interesting for me as well, because if it's a song I've heard before, I can usually have a pretty convincing effort.
Really?
If it's something I've never heard before, then it's homework.
Yes, true.
It works both ways for me. And then also, if the song doesn't go down well, it's not my fault.
Yeah.
Their fault. They asked for it. I was like, well, listen, that was the buzzkill. Sometimes I get requests where I'll be like, I'll outright be like, not the time. I've had a gig where I had everyone up dancing. I was playing like quite active songs, and then someone came up to me like, "Oh, could you play Seaside by the Kooks?" Which is a very like mellow song. I was like, maybe at the start of the night, mate, but like we're into like the peak of the night right now.
Yeah.
Everyone wants, like the Mr. Brightside and the Country Roads. We don't want this like nice, melodic, thoughtful, introspective song.
So this is something where we might have a little bit of crossover here, as I've been sort of studying people's reactions to music. because I do these events called Beats by Bingo, which is musical bingo, and it's essentially just the hook. I'm just playing the hook from, Bon Jovi, whatever it is, the YMCA song. It's all sorts of things. So I've sort of been watching. What's that?
Two classics.
Yeah, exactly.
YMCA.
And so I've been watching which songs kind of drive people into a bit of a frenzy. One that's very unexpected to me, but do you know the song "Low" by Flo Rida with the song about apple bottom jeans and the boots with the fur?
I know it intimately.
That song drives white women into a frenzy like no other. If you
Yeah.
can learn how to play that on the guitar,
Yeah.
I highly recommend you pick it up.
I did initially do a playlist based on, I typed in on Spotify. There's a playlist on there called like songs that drive white people crazy. And yeah, definitely that kind of The Killers, I do a pretty mean cover of what's it go? If you want to go and take a ride with me.
Yeah, I don't know the song, but yeah.
Me by Nelly.
Yes.
And I do a pretty convincing cover of that, and that again gets the white people cranking.
You do quite a bit of Taylor Swift as well, don't you?
I've been known to that.
Yeah. I've got a guitar sitting around here somewhere. I was attempting to learn how to play Anti-Hero on that, but I've learnt that I don't exactly well, I'll keep I'll keep plugging, but I haven't shown any natural affinity for music so far, so we'll see how that goes. How long have you been playing for?
Oof. I guess since I was like maybe 13.
Wow, yeah, so it's
I'm not sure how long that was though.
you've got your 10,000 hours of what do you call it, practice or whatever that old sort of theory was, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've not done the maths. There's definitely some stretches where I thought it would be better to chase girls than learn how to play guitar. So there's definitely some gaps in there.
I've heard from Lemmy from Motorhead that was kind of why he got into music. So I don't think the two of those are mutually exclusive. I think there's quite a bit of crossover generally.
Well, I thought there'd be crossover personally, but
You thought there'd be what? Sorry?
more crossover.
Oh, that's not been your experience?
Well, it's like you do a gig, right? And you think you're going to be like the rock star, but
Right.
everyone's having a good time when they're down on the floor, right? And then you're playing music, they're dancing, and then they catch someone else's eye who's also dancing, and you're the mug there playing,
That
Taylor Swift,
that
and
is
they're
devastating
they're
because they
reaping the benefits of
they're
your
capitalizing off your goodwill.
exactly.
You drive them into a frenzy, and then they turn into, in the episode of Futurama where Zoidberg is the only one who doesn't walk into the ocean for that mating ceremony or whatever it is.
I have often discussed the Zoidberg of music, so that makes sense.
What you should do is to your little blackboard, you should write tips and requests and smooches.
Yeah.
$2 or something, and you might have a bit more luck there because they might not. It's like with the requests, they might not know they're allowed to ask for it.
I don't know if I can charge them for the smooches though. I don't.
Would it be you pay them for it?
I don't know if I could do that either, Taylor.
Yeah, that's in the era of Me Too. That's probably considered inappropriate. I host a quiz on Tuesdays, and the little booth that I like host it from is like it's like a carnival booth, and it says kissing booth on the top of it. And I think, I really hope that doesn't come back to bite me. Like, I didn't choose it. I should make that clear. It was just the one that was available.
You had any smooches in the kissing booth?
Have I ever?
Yeah, in the kissing booth.
It hasn't happened yet. But we've only done two iterations of the quiz, so you never know. You never know what's going to happen. I might have to punish a team for coming last.
If they want a third, then you gotta get
It's like the third date rule. That's when it happens.
exactly
Funny.
third quiz.
Magnificent. So then, I was going to say as well, with your kind of like your progression, I suppose, you have been one of the few people that I know that actually posts clips pretty diligently on the social media. Was that something you've always done, or have you saw a bit of, because they seem like they do quite well. Is that something that you did as a bit of a like, why not, and then saw that it's going well?
So I originally started doing it when I was doing stand-up comedy more regularly, which we can get into the division of when I do stand-up and when I do music. But
Yeah,
when I was doing purely stand-up, I decided to, get one of the, a little tripod and a little microphone to plug into my phone to try and barely boost the sound quality. And I cut together a few little crowd work clips because that seems to be the thing that gets people going these days. Is love crowd work. Right? They love it. Nothing better than finding out what a guy on the front row does for work. That's what people love.
Or whether a couple that look, or two people that look like a couple are in fact a couple or not.
Yeah.
Riveting stuff.
Nothing better than paying $25 for a ticket to find out how long Bill and Sandra have been together for.
But so you started clips there.
So I started doing those and I uploaded one clip. And I think this is an Instagram thing they do. Because I uploaded this first ever reel I uploaded.
Yep.
And it got 17,500 views. And pretty rapidly as well. Like I was refreshing and I was getting, 200 more views and then 500 and 1,000 more views. And then I was like, oh shit, I'm that guy now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be successful. And then my second reel got like 1,500 views. And I was like, oh, I know. They just boost your first reel to make you think that you're going to be successful.
And then you're chasing that dragon ever since, right?
Chasing that dragon. And then I've uploaded more since then. And then I kind of made the switch to doing music reels. And my first one of those is like a couple of thousand. And then I got 7,000. Then kind of out of nowhere, I was uploading kind of viral songs. I was definitely, catering to kind of what's out there.
Yeah.
Putting my on them. And then I started getting into the, the 50, 60,000 views.
Wow.
Yeah, it was mad. And then it's weird as well, the way things get picked up. Like if you get like a business Instagram, you can like see where your followers are kind of from, right? And the breakdown of your followers. And I'm just looking at it now. 29.2% of my followers are from Brazil.
Hell yeah.
15.4% are from Argentina. 5% are from Chile. So for some reason, I'm popping off in South America.
Seán Tinker, big in Latin America.
I don't know what it is, but I'm not complaining. So
that's amazing.
It's weird how things do kind of pick up. And I mean, not worth a dime in the US, but goddamn, Rio de Janeiro loves me.
Yeah, when you do that Brazil tour, you're gonna crush it.
Amen.
So we got about 5 minutes left of this one. Let's chat about your stand-up a little bit. Talk to us about the difference between music and stand-up and any thoughts you've got on that.
From a performing aspect, I've kind of realized that doing music can go one of two ways. You can either be very much a background, you're a nice little addition to a bar, or you can be the forefront. You can be the thing that makes people dance and get up and clap and cheer. But you don't always get that. Sometimes you'll finish a song and there'll be dead silence.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's just a kind of a New Zealand thing.
Yes.
But at first I took that personally. But then I'd have people when they're leaving the bar, they'd come up to say, oh, thank you very much for the music. It was great. And I was like, well, why didn't you fucking tell me?
Give me some claps when I'm playing. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't get that kind of instant gratification. But with stand-up, if you're doing it right, you do. You get that laugh. If you're doing a stand-up set and you hear nothing the whole way through, it's very rare that people be like, that was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You get that instant gratification. And if you're doing stand-up and you're in the background, you're obviously doing it wrong.
Yes.
Like stand-up, kind of larger than life, you need to be the main focus. If people are kind of chatting to their mates when you're doing stand-up, it's a big no-no, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I've definitely had venue owners who think that stand-up can be done just in the corner while everyone's still watching the horse racing, and then it does that shocked Pikachu face when it doesn't work. And it's like, well, yeah, they have to hear the jokes for them to work. Like, they can't be like, man, this the dulcet tones of this guy's voice in the background, oh, fantastic. It's like, yeah, they have to actually interpret the words in their brain and then decide if they're going to laugh or not. But yeah,
it's also like if you go into a bar and there's a musician there, you're like, oh, awesome, there's live music. That's nice.
Yeah.
If you walk to a bar and there's a guy doing stand-up and you didn't know about it, that would be the worst possible thing. Or if you're already in the bar and they start setting up the stage for stand-up, you're like, Jesus Christ.
I love
you
that.
got to be perfect for stand-up, I think.
I love that meme of the when it's a bunch of people at the party and there's one person in the corner and it just says in the thought bubble like they don't know or whatever, and there's the one that just says they don't know I'm about to start this open mic. And
Tell me with such dread and terror.
yes, yeah, no, that I hate being the MC when you're running one of those gigs. So that's basically, we're just coming up on 40 minutes now. I think we are going to do another podcast. So the people that are listening in real time, check back in a week or so for more of Seán Tinker. But for right now, where can the listeners go and find you online if they'd like to see more of you?
If they want to find more of me, I'm on Instagram at SeánMichael101. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I tried TikTok, not for me. Got a couple of shows coming up. I should have really got into that as well. We'll do it in the next podcast. But
sure, yeah.
August, we're going up to like Hamilton and Whitianga and all these places. And
is that the Booze and Crack?
That's the Booze and Crack with the one and only David Stewart. So there'll be three of us touring around the North Island for a wee bit.
Very funny gentleman, I can attest that. So yeah, just search what is it Crack Up Comedy Nights that runs those?
Crack Up Comedy Nights, yes, run by Alan McElroy.
Yes, I'm going to be podcasting with him on Monday, so I'm sure the listeners will be hearing a lot about Crack Up Comedy. Brilliant. Well, thanks for joining me, Seán. I hope the rest of your day goes well, but we're actually going to come back and record another one very soon. So, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Ruddle Me This. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. You can find me on social media at Taylor Ruddle Comedy on all the major platforms. You can also join patreon.com/Taylor Ruddle Comedy for free, which gets you access to all sorts of extras and behind the scenes content, as well as allows you to communicate directly with me and let me know what you think of the show. Tune in again next Monday for another episode of Ruddle Me This, and until then, Ruddle her out.
This has been a Tape Deck Media production. Thank you for listening.